Originally, the idea behind the tariffs was to bring back manufacturing, which is a good idea because we want to have domestic manufacturing. So when he announces the tariffs, everybody's happy because it means domestic manufacturing is going to come back. But then when he gets rid of the tariffs, then it's good because it was a negotiation, but I'm not entirely sure what for.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're watching something that, well, honestly, it caught me a bit off guard. We're looking at a debate between Destiny and a supporter named Trey. The core of the argument, whether the political movement we've seen dominating the headlines is actually a cult, or if it's just a highly passionate political culture. Trey comes into this very confident. I mean, he's armed with definitions, he's got the etymology ready to go, but Destiny has a completely different lens on the situation. And the way this conversation shifts, it's genuinely eye-opening. You can see the moment where the academic definitions hit the reality of how these movements actually function on the ground. I'm telling you, stick around for this one. The deeper they get into the weeds, the more revealing it becomes about how we all process information and loyalty in 2026. It's a masterclass in how logic can look very different depending on which side of the aisle you're standing on. We're going to walk through the highlights together and see who actually wins the definitions game. Before we jump in, do me a huge favor. We have a massive goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. If you appreciate independent breakdowns that don't follow the mainstream script, hit that subscribe button right now. Also, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far this community reaches around the world. All right, let's get into the clip.
Culture, when I think of cult, I think of things like the People's Temple, things like the Branch Davidians, or the Moonies, or...
I'm curious, for those things, what makes them a cult to you? Why do you view them as cultish?
Yeah, I read the book, The Cult of Trump by Dr. Stephen Hassan. Everybody should read it, Republicans too, right? Read it with a grain of salt. Dr. Hassan is critical of Trumpers, but that it's cool, read it, right? So I think the biggest things he goes off of are the bite model and the influence continuum. The bite model being cults control your behavior, they control the information you intake, your thoughts, and your emotions. And then the influence continuum is like and I'm kind of like being very general because I can't recite the whole book, but influence continuum is like there's a healthy side of a cult and there is an unhealthy side of a cult. Personally, as a Trump supporter, I'm not really, I don't think my behavior is controlled by the MAGA movement, or my thoughts are controlled by the MAGA movement, or neither is my emotions or the information I take in. Like I can watch your channel, I can watch other like left-wing channels or independents or whatever. Same as I can also watch Fox News too, right? So with that, I also don't see the value in calling a cult like a positive thing. I'm kind of leaning more to where like it's just you're not a cult, because cults are very destructive generally, right? If we look back at the etymology of the word, when I did some research, it's like a cult comes from, the word cult comes from cultus, which was Latin, which comes from colere, which Latin and French, and that meant to till. And it's also, that's where we get words like cultivate from too. And then colere in French is anger. It's like a direct translation to anger. So that's where I think we get like an emotional attachment to the word cult.
I'm curious, random question. You ever seen Rick and Morty?
No. Maybe like one episode.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay.
There's some episode in the first season where they're in like a giant hallucination, and the crude depiction of the hallucination is they're on like a treadmill, and the computer is like generating reality in front of them as they're running. And I think that one of the scariest things when I look at how I guess like the Trump movement operates is it truly feels like Trump can put anything he wants in front of the Trumpists, and there's always going to be a way that it's okay, even if it literally contradicts what came 5 minutes before.
So Trey just laid out the bite model, behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. And then immediately, like within seconds, he says, none of that applies to me. I'm totally free. I can watch your channel, I can watch left-wing stuff, I'm fine. But here is the thing that just, it blew past him completely. If you're actually in the information bubble, you don't know you're in it. That's literally how it works. You think you're getting the full picture because you can technically access other sources, but the question isn't, can you watch? The real question is, what actually penetrates that shield and changes your mind? Destiny is about to show us exactly what that looks like in practice, and well, frankly, it's devastating. When someone says they aren't controlled by a movement while simultaneously defending every single action of that movement, that isn't freedom. That is exactly what captured thinking looks like. And notice how Trey keeps leaning on the fact that he read about cults. He did the research on the etymology, he's got the books, but all that academic distance doesn't stop him from exhibiting the exact behaviors he just defined. The Rick and Morty analogy Destiny brings up, it's perfect. It's reality getting generated on a treadmill as you run. That's the experience from the outside looking in. You watch contradictions happen in real time, and somehow, it all gets justified. The scary part isn't even that people believe wrong things, it's that a framework exists where nothing can ever be wrong. And we're about to see that play out perfectly with this tariffs example.
So I think a really good example of this is the tariffs and everything surrounding the tariffs. So originally, the idea behind the tariffs was to bring back manufacturing, which is a good idea because we want to have domestic manufacturing. So when he announces the tariffs, everybody's happy because it means domestic manufacturing is going to come back. But then when he gets rid of the tariffs, then it's good because it was a negotiation, but I'm not entirely sure what for, because if he's negotiating to trade with a bunch of other countries, well, isn't that not having domestic manufacturing then? And it seems like on my stream, I always call this, you might have heard me say this, like all roads lead to Rome, where no matter what Trump does, there's always a way to justify it. And I think that's one of the scariest, I don't know if you call it a cultish aspect to it, that is frightening to me. Biden had a really disastrous debate performance. Republicans celebrated and Democrats cowered in fear. It was we all felt that. And after that debate performance was so bad that basically the entire Democratic establishment pushed Biden away from running for the presidency again. I don't think that Trump could do anything like that would ever cause Republicans to push him away. And I think that's been demonstrated on at least 5 or 6 different occasions over the past few months. The tariffs one being one of the larger ones. Yeah. Do you think, I'm curious because, and I started kind of asking this question to people, like, is there anything that Trump could do that you think would be over the line for, maybe not necessarily for you, but for over half of the Trump supporters?
Over half. I'm sure there are things, like if he did something crazy, illegal and obvious.
I'm going to say there have been crazy things and obvious things, like not bringing back Abrego Garcia, I would say is pretty crazy.
Well, I'm not too familiar with that one, but but we can talk, like, one of the things you mentioned was that they'll always follow him. I feel like as a MAGA Trumper, shout out to Dr. Fafo on the Pangburn universe, I feel like as a MAGA Trumper, right, Trump supporter, I can critique his tariffs and I can be like, that is directly against free market ideology, right? And I don't think the tariffs, I don't think they're permanent. Another thing you said...
So this is like, this is a thing I noticed had happened. So if you were to rate the badness of the tariffs on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the president wore a tan suit, and 10 is the president pushed the button to nuke the entire world, how bad do you think the tariffs are on that scale from 1 to 10?
I don't know, maybe 5. Like, the reason why I'm like kind of in the middle on some of these things. So like the tariffs, I know people that want to buy Chinese products, and now they're like, it's as expensive as American products, or it's going to be.
Well, I think so. Just on so you give it a 5. I feel like most economists would probably put that anywhere from like a 7 to a 9 in terms of how unbelievably insane the tariff regime is right now. So I notice it feels like there's kind of a minimizing of the effect that Trump might be having on the United States and the world. And then so you said that was a 5. can you give me like a single action that you would have been worried about from Kamala, or something that Joe Biden did that you think would be over a 5 in comparison to like the tariffs? Like, what's something you were worried about with Kamala, or something that Biden did that you felt like would have been worse than the tariff stuff with Trump?
Well, I didn't really like the way we exited Afghanistan.
Look, this is the moment where the whole argument it crystallizes. Destiny just walked through the tariff contradiction step by step. And it's honestly, well, it's perfect because it's just so simple. Think about the cycle here. Tariffs get announced and everyone celebrates because domestic manufacturing is coming back, right? But then tariffs get removed and everyone celebrates again because it was all just a brilliant negotiation. But wait, if you're negotiating just to trade with other countries again, then you're not actually bringing back domestic manufacturing. The original point, it just evaporates. The logic doesn't just fail, it literally inverts. And yet, somehow, both outcomes are treated as massive victories. It's the all roads lead to Rome principle. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every single action gets retrofitted with a justification after the fact. Now, look at what happens next, because this is crucial. Destiny brings up the current debate situation. When the sitting president had that disastrous performance, the entire Democratic establishment, they actually pushed him out. They held their own side accountable. But Destiny's point is that accountability, it doesn't exist on the other side anymore. There is no line that could be crossed that would cause the base to turn. And Trey's response, he stumbles. He says, sure, there are things, probably, maybe, if something crazy illegal happened, but he can't name a single one. Then he pivots immediately to, well, I can still critique the tariffs though, which, if you think about it, actually proves Destiny's point. You can say you disagree, but it doesn't matter because the support, it never wavers. And here's where it gets even better. Destiny asks him to rate the insanity of the tariffs on a scale of 1 to 10. Trey says 5, 5. And then Destiny he drops the hammer. He points out that most economists would put this at a 7 to a 9 inches terms of sheer economic risk. That gap right there, that's the minimization happening in real time. When your side does something objectively destructive, the severity gets downplayed, and then when Destiny asks what the other side did, that was worse than a 5. Trey brings up Afghanistan, and that is when the whole thing it completely unravels. Some days. Watching that pivot to Afghanistan when you're talking about current trade policy, it's the ultimate distraction. Before we get into that final meltdown, do me a huge favor. We have a massive goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month.
It was long coming. Everybody.
You think the exit from Afghanistan was as bad as the tariff situation?
Well, they're different things, right? Economic and military. I think it was a very bad performance, or is hard to look at. I was trying military, so it's really hard to look at that, to see like my country put like that. If I can bring it back to the cult thing, though.
Okay. Wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
That because I'm just curious. Are you familiar with who negotiated the Afghanistan pullout thing?
Yeah, I've been told Trump did the Abraham. No, not the Abraham. It was
the
some
Doha agreement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That. We could definitely. That's that agreement, right? I don't even want to talk about this. But
sure, we don't have to. Well, but then I noticed that there's like this. It's just people laughed earlier when you said you weren't as familiar with the Abrego Garcia thing. Is because it seems like in the MAGA world, I personally don't subscribe to that cult model, not because I don't believe it, but I just haven't researched enough on it. But you brought up the I part, which is the information control.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that like if I were to ask a Trump person about like trans sports, they could give me like 15 different competitions where a trans woman, just won over some cisgender women. But then if I ask like, oh, have you heard about this? This green card or visa holder who was deported with no due process to a slave camp in another country, the only country he was, ordered by our courts not to be deported back to, and it was in violation of a TRO by signing an order on a Friday night and then shipping this guy to the country, like an unbelievable set of circumstances. And it's like, well, I really don't know anything about that. But like in Riley, by the way, and it's just like, it feels like we just moved. It's like, okay, yeah. But same thing with the Afghanistan thing. Like one of the big complaints that Trump had leaving office was that the deep state was, fighting against him, and, they wouldn't listen to his orders. And one of the orders that he reportedly gave was he wanted to draw down everybody out of Afghanistan before he left. And I think it was Mattis that said, we're not doing that. I'm just going to ignore that. So that's an interesting issue to have when I feel like the negotiation for the Doha Agreement was horrible. More soldiers died in Afghanistan under Trump than they did under Biden during the pullout. And the dead soldiers there is tragic, but man, we were not set up to leave well at all.
We were. With the deportation, I think whatever's within the law, whatever the law allows, I'm good with that.
So this is another thing that's really scary to me is when people say whatever the law is, because Donald Trump will tell you what he thinks the law is all the time. So if Donald Trump decides to deport a citizen and he says, well, I think that in the Constitution it says naturalized citizens don't count as people who came here and were lawful permanent residents and then were naturalized under citizens, I don't think they count. Then that's the scary part, I think, from our end, is that Trumpers will say, oh, well, as long as it's following the law, and he says it's following the law, therefore he can do that. And it's like, well, in that case, we can basically justify anything. Yeah.
I'm scared of, what do you call it? Disappearances.
So, Trey brings up Afghanistan like it's this ultimate trump card. Finally, he thinks he's found something worse than the tariffs. But then Destiny immediately asks, do you know who actually negotiated that withdrawal? And you see Trey fumble. He's been told it was all on the current administration, but he clearly hasn't looked into the Doha Agreement or the timeline. And then it gets surgical. Destiny mentions the Garcia case, a green card holder, someone legally here, who was essentially deported into a slave camp with zero due process in total violation of a court order. Trey admits he has no idea what that even is. And that is the moment the information curation is exposed. I mean, think about it. Ask any supporter about, trans athletes or whatever the culture war topic of the day is, and they'll give you 15 examples off the top of their head. But a massive constitutional crisis involving a legal resident being sent to a labor camp? Total silence. You're being fed stories that keep you angry, while the actual human rights violations, they just get filtered out. But here is where it gets really dark. Trey eventually says, whatever the law allows, I'm good with that. And Destiny's response should honestly terrify everyone. Because in this system, the leader tells you what the law is. If he decides naturalized citizens don't count anymore and starts deporting them, and he says it's legal, then what? You've just handed over all authority to one person's interpretation. That isn't the rule of law, guys. That's just authoritarianism with a legal veneer. Trey's final response is chilling. He admits he's scared of disappearances, too. He knows it's bad. But the structure is already in place, where as long as someone claims it's legal, the base just goes along with it. That's the system. That's the cult behavior Destiny is talking about. And that is why this specific conversation matters so much for the future of the country. It's a heavy realization, but we have to talk about it. What do you guys think? Is the legal veneer enough to justify these actions, or are we watching the rule of law evaporate in real time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to get a debate going on this one. And hey, we are so close to our goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. If you appreciate commentary that doesn't gaslight you, hit that subscribe button and like the video. I'm Mike, and I'll see you in the next one.